Hey there, gang. I have to see how many people are on. Hey there, it is Dr. Deb, and it is Thursday at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, and I will give everyone another minute to hop on because today's talk is really important. It's about your kids, and like, what is more important than that, right? Are kids resilient? I say they're not resilient. And how do I tell how many people are on? I saw a person here. Okay, I am going to start, even though I can't tell who's here. What's this? Participants. I wonder if something went wrong with my link. Okay, I'm starting anyway because I need to know that you're there, and give me a chat if you are. And if you're not, if you're going to see this later, that's good. That's cool. Then you can comment underneath. Okay, you guys. So chat in and tell me that you follow what I'm saying, or you need a correction, or you disagree with it, or anything. Also, please subscribe. I'm just restarting this channel after like 12 years, and we're starting with these being just private if you have the link, but I'm creating a whole video series on IFS and how I work and what I think we can do to help people who have marriages that need help. But today's focus is going to be all about the kids. We want to know if kids are resilient. I say they're not, and the reason I say they're not is because you know yourself how you feel based on the history that you had. So if you grew up in a family which was kind and empathetic and loving, then you know how you turned out as a result of that. If, on the other hand, you grew up in a family that was cold, distant, everyone doing their own thing, or people were selfish, or your family was not understanding you or getting you, any of these things were not exactly the kinds of things that kids need, right? So in that case, what you would end up with is the you that you are that may have reactivity or an inability to cope with situations. The you that you are may not necessarily be your best self. And what does that really mean? And that gets to the title of today's talk. Your best self would be resilient because you're born with a self that is smart and capable and wise. That's who we all are. The self that we were born with is often not who everyone sees, however. And that's because we develop what's called protectors and even exiled children, inner children that are knocking at the door for attention and not getting it. So let's look at that, because in order to understand how to help our kids be resilient, I want to give you a little bit of a background on what goes wrong sometimes. So in order for you to understand that, let's start with protectors and exiles. In case you've never had internal family systems spoken to you or you've never read about it, I'm just going to jump right in because I don't see who's on the call, and I don't know if you are people who've been in my group and understand this or not. So I'm just going to jump right in. But if you are, if you know like this stuff, it would be helpful for you to comment so I know who I'm talking to. I like to know who my audience is. But anyway, protectors come about when you're a small child and yourself basically is getting under attack. Whoever it is that you are, yourself is attacked. Now, why would that be? Why would a parent attack a child who is exhibiting normal, healthy self-energy? And the answer is because children aren't adults, and we, as children, we don't always live up to what the adult wanted. And what the adult wants may be unreasonable for a child your age. It may not be developmentally sound, but we can't help that. Adults don't know. They did what they did. And so the child's self kind of gets hidden by protectors. The protectors may take very many different forms. They could be angry, they could be withdrawn, they could scream, they could just not talk, they could be depressed, not get out of bed. Any of these things can happen to a child to protect their self. Also, the real child's hurt, the pain that the child experiences, is there too. So behind the protector is a sad, crying, hurt, or frightened child. The child who was shamed, humiliated, mistreated is sad, frightened, or terrorized, or depressed, or numb. That child is hiding behind the protector, and it's always there. Your inner children don't go away. You may not know them anymore, and that's why they're often called exiles, because you haven't heard from them in years. But you feel something behind your own feelings of anger, sadness, hopelessness, numbness, depression, whatever it is. The sad child, you know, is back there somewhere, and you just can't reach them, because that's why they're called exile, because your protectors don't trust that you can handle the overwhelming emotions that might come up with those exiled children being there. So therefore, they go underground. And the only way, as far as I know, to help those exiled children is with therapy from a professional who understands exactly how, an IFS professional like me. However, what I want to do now is not spend more time on that. That was a little bit of an intro. What I really want to do is get into resilient children. Resilient children are exactly how they are born when, and here's the rule, when parents allow the children to be who they are and accept those children and love those children. An opposite rule, when you can kind of go backwards from being a grown-up to what your own childhood must have been, the more protectors you have, and you can tell protectors by how reactive you have. The more reactive you have, the more trauma and pain you had as a child. That's just the way it is. So you can tell what happened to you. Now, When the exiles are crying out to be heard and the protectors are fighting them and shutting them down, the kid cannot grow up to be who they really are. And that's why today is a little bit of a departure from everything that I have done in the past on adult relationships, relation to yourself and relation to your family. And I'm talking about kids. And you'll forgive me if I do, because I just think that's important. And somebody did write actually in a request for information on what topic I should do on kids. So this is one of those topics. A resilient child and a resilient person is someone who is in self no matter what. Does that mean they don't have parts? No, they have parts. The parts are there to protect them a little bit. But here's the key. Yourself is a team member with the parts. The parts don't take over you. They don't hijack you. Let me give you an example before I get into the 6 ways, which I promised. An example of parts not hijacking you. Supposing you're angry. I have a guy from Microsoft who's supposed to be helping me with my email, which hasn't been working properly in Outlook for a month. Okay. So I bought 365, and the guy is just popping from page to page and clicking here or having me click there. And he's doing the same thing repeatedly with no luck. He doesn't know what he's doing. So I am angry at him. But that's not my whole self. My whole self did not get taken over by the anger. I know there's a very angry part because my time is being wasted by someone who doesn't know what he's doing. However, I wasn't rude to him. Even though he called me at the wrong time, didn't keep our appointment, nothing. I still didn't act angry. Why? Because I was collaborating with my parts. The parts, the angry part, was collaborating with myself to get through this. And I knew that if I just made him angry, number one, he wouldn't think clearly because he'd be angry back. Number two, he might be shamed and humiliated, and it might really cloud his thinking, and he wouldn't be able to help me at all. And number three, he's a human being. What do I need to do that to him? Just because he did it to me? Just because he's disrespectful of my time, I have to be disrespectful back? That's not self-energy. I did say to him, okay, tomorrow's the last day. If it doesn't work tomorrow, then you'll get the next level tech, okay? And he agreed. So there we go. So I want you to understand this, because when we get to the 6 ways to help our kids be resilient, then you're going to understand why you have to be in self and how you're going to help them be in self. Okay, way number 1, give the kids choices. When a child is very, very little, let's say a child is only 2 and they can't even talk, you could say, you see they're crying, are you hungry? And the kid might say yes, might continue crying. If they can't really talk, maybe they don't. But you hold up food. You may hold up a string cheese. You may hold up a bowl of Cheerios. These are things kids like. The kid has the right to choose the thing he wants. You hold up a little sippy cup of milk or water. Obviously, he doesn't get to choose candy. I'm not saying he chooses something unhealthy. He doesn't know better, and you do have to put boundaries in there as a parent. But from a list, a menu, shall we say, of healthy choices the kid can get to choose. When the kid is 3 and 4, the kid can choose the clothes, bearing in mind that some clothes are not appropriate for some situations. If you're going to go to a formal event, the kid will have to wear the formal clothes if that's what you feel is appropriate for the 3 or 4-year-old. But again, within a menu of proper or suitable choices, the kid gets to choose. Why is this important? Self, although self doesn't have an agenda like protective parts, self has larger life goals. That's self energy. And how can you develop that in a small child? A person has to know what they like and go towards it. I remember offering my grandson, who at the time was about 7 or 8, I remember offering him a peanut butter chocolate chip cookie that I had made, which I was very proud of. And I thought they were very good, obviously. And he said, no. Now, I can push it on him and say, oh, they're very good. Why don't you want it? But doing that is taking away from the child his feeling of self-energy and his choices. It turned out when he was about 12 or 14, he explained to his mother, every time I eat peanut butter, I get this ticklish feeling in the back of my throat and it kind of makes me cough. She took him to the dermatologist, or I don't know whatever, the doctor. It turned out that he's allergic to peanuts. So it's a good thing that I didn't force the peanuts on him. And it's a good thing that other people didn't either. So even though he couldn't articulate, even until he was a teenager, what the problem was, it shows that we have an innate desire to do what's good for us and what means something to us. So that was number 1, give them choices. Number 2, praising a kid is wonderful. Do not praise for something lower than their level. If your child is 2.5 and you're potty training them, you go, yay, when they went to the bathroom. When they're 4, don't do that unless they had some troubles earlier and you need to give them some kind of positive feedback. But even then, I think the rah, rah, rah could embarrass them, because at 4, they should have been potty trained. All their little friends in preschool are already potty trained, and they know without being able to verbalize it, they should have been. They might be actually embarrassed by being praised for something that they should have been doing already. So don't praise a child, at least not too much, for something lower than the level that they really are on. Obviously, if the child has some physical or emotional or mental disabilities, it's a different case. But I'm talking about on their age level for kids who are functioning the way you would expect them to for their age. That's number 2. Now, discipline. Let's get to discipline because it seems to be a very big problem in families. Discipline is not abuse. Discipline is not losing it, right? Discipline has to match, get this, the personality of the child. So, if a child is a sensitive person and cries easily, don't scream, because that is not going to help. And this is a caveat here, your assessment of personality must be realistic and accurate for the child. If you mess up in assessing who your child is, that's on you. Get yourself right into therapy quickly to understand how you have some kind of a filter which doesn't see your child. I'll give you a very good example. I was told that a client of mine who is a teenager is manipulative. I do not believe that children are manipulative unless they have been boxed into a corner where they can't seem to express who they are and get understood. Then they may need to get to being manipulative. But that is not a normal, healthy thing. If you think your child is manipulative, either you're wrong or there's something you're doing wrong that caused them to become manipulative. That's not the way kids are. Either way, the responsibility falls on you. If someone else comes along and tells you, no, that's not who your child is, or tells you, your child isn't crying because they want something, they're crying because you don't get them. If that's the case, and there's this discrepancy in you understanding your child, I say the responsibility is on you to get help for the fact that you don't get people, including your child, because your child will suffer from it. And since I say they're not resilient because they're going to be hurt in the process with tons of protectors and exiles growing up with them, then the best thing to do is to get help for it now. What's that? Nip it in the bud. Okay, that's number 3. Number 4, discipline is never or should never be punishment. What do I mean? Discipline is like this. You say to your child, you want to go to your friend tonight, right? Yes. Let's say the kid is 8 or 10 or a teenager. Well, teenagers are a little different. You better have gotten this organized beforehand, but whatever age, you make a deal. Okay, you know you postponed doing that report for school. You went over with me what you would do and what the obstacles are and why you postponed it, but you kept postponing it. And I know that you can do it because we discussed it. In order to go to your friend, you need to get it done. You've got 2 to 3 hours here to get to work. 3 hours later, the kid hasn't done a thing. They've been playing with toys. They've been doing whatever else they wanted. My assessment of that is that you have not been very strict in the past with sticking to what you said were consequences. Otherwise, they would not have taken advantage of you that way. That's my assessment. But they didn't get it done. Here's how discipline works where you're not being punitive. You say, oh, I feel so bad. I know you really wanted to go to your friends, but I guess you didn't. I thought you did, but I guess you didn't because otherwise you surely would have done the thing. Oh, well, good night, sweetie. Have a good night's sleep. In other words, they're not going to their friend, but you're putting the responsibility for it on them. They made a choice. We get back to number 1, choices. They made a choice to not do the work, which means they made a choice to not go to the friend. And you feel bad for them. You're not angry. You're not saying, I'm not letting you go. They're not letting themselves go. They chose not to go. And that's the language you use because that is exactly what happened. You were upfront with them and they didn't listen. Okay, so that's number 4. And now we get to number 5. Love should never be crippling. There was somebody I was speaking to who was saying that her mom would say, oh, don't go to school. if you don't feel like taking the test, let's just go together and get our nails done. That's crippling. That's not love. If the mom is needy and wants the child's attention and ropes the child in that way, that's something for the mom to look at. Love should never be crippling. If you do everything for your kid and they make no decisions and not lift a finger, that's not love. So that's number 5. Number 6, praise should be specific. What do I mean? My granddaughter shows me a picture she drew, and I go, oh my God, I can't believe the perspective. You made that tree small because it's in the distance. And the kid is leaning over. I can see the angle of her body. That's amazing. That's fantastic. I was giving specific praise about the fact that the kid, my grandkid, could draw the picture in a way that showed distance and angles of bodies and so on. That is how you should give praise. Just saying you're a good kid, that's very nice, but that shouldn't be used as a praise thing. The only time you would use that is if the kid misbehaves and you go, I don't get it. You're a good kid. You listen. You're responsible. Even then, I'm being specific. Why would you knock down Junior's pile of toys or whatever? You still give praise, and specifically, even when you're telling a kid that they did something wrong. So praise should be specific. And I came up with a bonus, number 7. Never, ever punish or discipline in anger. Never, never let your own anger hijack yourself. You must be in self when you discipline a kid, because otherwise your child will hear a message that you don't love them. I guarantee you that is the message they will hear. They will not believe anything else. I'm working with adults who tell me my parent was a narcissist and they don't love me. They never did. I know at some level, in a very immature way, their parent probably did love them. Not always, but most of the time. I once had a teenager tell me her mother didn't love her. And when the mother came in, I had asked permission to repeat that back, and the kid gave me permission. And I said, your kid thinks you don't love her. And she was shocked. Well, that's what happens when you get angry. Now, are you allowed to be angry? Are you allowed to feel anger? Of course, it's normal to feel anger. That's what I meant when I said a resilient person in self-energy has a collaborative relationship with their parts. Their parts are not so enmeshed in them, so blended in them, that they can't separate themselves out from the anger or any other part. They can literally hold the anger up and talk to it, as I will be demonstrating when I publish my videos that I have actually made already in explaining all this on YouTube. But for now, just imagine it. Talk to your anger. Yes, I'm angry at that tech support guy, but I'm not getting angry. That's the difference. We made a deal. If he can't do this, he's going to go to the next level. And if he doesn't go to the next level because he's ashamed to admit that he can't do it, that's fine. I will just put in a ticket for help and explain what happened, and it'll get worked out. Why do I need to be angry? It's all the more so with your kid. They need to know you love them. Never get angry. So it is exactly 1:30 rather. I don't know who was here. No one chatted in. I really, first of all, when I do publish these, none of these are being published yet. They're just for the consumption of people who receive the link from me, either in Facebook or on my Google page or on in the email. But once I do publish it, comments are very helpful for other people, because then they'll understand what it's about and what was good about it or what was not good about it. All comments are welcome. I still don't have a chat. All right. You take care, guys. Have a wonderful day.